Alright everybody, this is Conqueror and Commander, and today we're going to look at the Political Puppets Preconstructed Commander deck. This deck uses Zedruu the Great-Hearted as its commander, and I'm not going to lie, I hated this deck with a passion. Like, an extreme passion. I do not like this deck one bit. Let's just talk about what we get here. First of all, Zedruu, the main ability behind Zedruu is the ability to donate stuff to other people and then get cards and life in order to make this trade-off. Well, first of all, Zedruu's ability is pretty mana intensive, number one. And number two, you have to have stuff that you don't want so that you get value out of donating things. In this deck, there's only 34 friggin' lands. It's awful. If you look here, 34 lands. This is a deck that definitely needs 39 at a minimum, and like 40 would be preferable, because on top of the fact that there's no green in order to accelerate, you're not going to have the right combination of mana a lot of time, especially early game. But the first thing I would do is I would pump up the number of lands. I would get up to 39. I'd add 5 lands. In addition, I would probably add a sacrifice outlet, like either Mirror in the Moaning Well or High Market, because there is a little bit of a theft theme in the deck. It's very small, but it's there. Finally, I would get as many dual lands, Shadowmoor filter lands, all those kind of things that you can put in here. And if you have fetch lands, that'd be even better to fit with stuff like Brainstorm. But enough bitching about the land. Let's talk about our mana help here. This deck comes with Soul Ring, which is good, Armillaria Sphere, Fellwar Stone, Prophetic Prism, Darksteel Ingot, Dreamstone Hedron, and Rapacious One. What this deck really wants are all the signets. This is the only commander deck, Precon, that didn't come with any of the signets. And it really wants them, and it wants them badly. Prophetic Prism is awful. This pile over here is crap that I would take out pretty much immediately upon getting this deck. Dreamstone Hedron I would normally like, but it just costs so much that most of the time it wasn't worth anything. Let's just take a quick look at the stats before I get farther on here. So the average CMC is pretty low. It's 3.14 for this deck, and I think that's why they justified having such a low land count. A lot of this stuff costs 2 or 3 mana, but I'm telling you, it's awful. And like Dreamstone Hedron doesn't accelerate you into really anything. Rapacious One worked out well. You know, the fact that he was able to make additional little mana dorks was good, and the rest of the stuff is fine. Let's talk about your destruction that comes with the deck. Martyr's Bond, good card. Austere Command, good card. Martyr's Bond would work well with a sacrifice outlet as well. False Prophet, you know, I never really got to exile stuff because people exiled him before I was able to do it. But it seems good. You know, Oblation, good. Journey to Nowhere. If you can get Source Plowshares or Path to Exile, I would replace that. You don't want to like journey somebody's Runescarred Demon and have it come back to bite you. Chaos Warp, here it is a good card. I was fine with Flametongue Kavu. Breath of Daragaz is a nice little sweeper for tokens, but I think, in all honesty, I would rather just have Earthquake. You can leave it in there though. Lash Out and Punishing Fire, awful, generally. There's other ways to do small amounts of damage or removal. This pile right here is all the stuff that you get that comes in as defense. Let's just look at the bottom here. We've got all 3 vows. I'm not a big fan of the vows, especially not in this deck, because if you hand off the vow to somebody else, you can put it on somebody else's creature and hand it off to somebody else, and it means that they can attack you. You can put it on your own creature and hand it to somebody else. It means that you're basically not able to attack somebody else. I don't like those. Poland Lullaby. There's a little bit of a clash component in this deck. If you really wanted to, you could add stuff like Sensei's Divining Top or Crystal Ball to help out. I'm not a huge fan of the clash stuff, but that's fine. Wall of Denial, Fog Bank, Plume Veil, Propaganda, Gamazoa, Guard Gamazoa, all these are fine. Soul Snare, I complained about previously on another deck, I think it was Heavenly Inferno, with the fact that it can only exile stuff that attacks you. I don't like that. I would take that out. Wall of Omens is fine. Prison Term, fine. Ghostly Prison, fine. Windborne Muse, fine. Arbiter of Knoll Ridge. This is an iffy card. I guess I could leave it in. I would leave it in the deck because really, what you're doing is you're starting the game over. A lot of times, there will be somebody who has 45 life, and you might be at 10, but like 2 other people might be that low. So it's really a tricky card, and people don't like extending games that long sometimes. I don't know. I would probably take that out. Let's look at the card draw. The first thing you got to know when you pick this deck up is that it contains Trade Secrets, which is a banned card in Commander now. Trade Secrets had the possibility of just going nuts and letting 2 people draw a crap ton of cards or their decks and win if they wanted to. So that had to get replaced, and I wanted it replaced with some sort of other political card. I put Mind's Aglow in. It's another commander card. It actually worked fairly well with this deck. You know, the good thing about it is that it's so cheap that you don't have to have a ton of mana to put into it. You can let other people contribute, and that's fine as well. Vision Skeins is fine. Court Hussar, fine. Perilous Research, that's a sack outlet. Skyscribing, fine. Nin, I was okay with. Brainstorm only really works if you have fetch lands or some way to shuffle your graveyard. It only works well if you have that. Otherwise, it just sort of like you're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Here's your Theft suite. Videlcum Plotter, you know, you always... What I would try and do is get some land that tapped for more than 1 mana, if I could do it. And then you could actually give the Plotter away using Zedruu. Reigns of Power... could be good, could be bad. Insurrection is your sole game-winning card in the deck. This is the only card that like is the bomb that can change things for you. Do not take it out of the deck. Whatever you do, don't do it. And even if you're holding it, sometimes you could just be sitting on it forever and it'll do nothing in your hand until there's a decent board position put up by people. Dominus of Fealty is fine. The problem with some of these theft cards, like Dominus and Reigns of Power, is you assume that like once you gain control of something and you hand it away, you should be able to draw cards from Zedruu, right? It doesn't really work out that way because you have to actually own the cards in order to gain from Zedruu's ability. So that makes Zedruu not... I mean, she doesn't really work with these temporary theft spells, or any theft spells, for that matter. Alright, this pile is your pile of like random beaters. Numot, I was fine with. Ruhan, he doesn't work well with the deck. I mean, you could put a Vow on him and make him a better beater, but, you know, for being a political deck, just running out and bashing into people doesn't really help anything. Brian's a nice little sack outlet, and he's good at doing stuff with the things that you steal. Azoriel's Guildmage is good. Izzet Chronarch is good for getting your Insurrection back if you need it. Death by Dragons, I didn't like it at all. It never helped me. It never made people happy. It just kind of sucked. Wild Ricochet, fine with. Spurn Mage Advocate. This is a very political card, and I never really drew it, so I'm not sure if I would keep it in or not. That's iffy. Chrome Shell Crab, fine. It's another theft spell. I would actually put it over here. And then Jotun Grunt is a nice little bit of graveyard hate. This pile right here is the pile of cards that came with the deck that I would feel okay giving away with Zedruu. Now, when you get Zedruu, there's a lot of people that like to play with stuff like Grid Monitor, who like once you give him away. Oh, I don't even own a Grid Monitor. Delusions. How about Delusions of Grandeur? Do I own one of those? I don't even own freaking Delusions of Grandeur. Steel Golem. Um, there we are. You can give away like stuff that really hurts your opponents, um, but you know, or you can give away stuff like Font of Mythos, which helps everybody equally, and it doesn't matter who controls it, right? Well, are you kidding? I don't own a Font of... That can't be right. I know I own a Font of Mythos. Is there one in the deck? Oh, because I misspelled it. There we are. It doesn't matter who owns the Font of Mythos. Everybody's going to draw. So, like, Howling Mine and Goblin Cadets are... The problem with Goblin Cadets is that even if you hand it out, somebody else can give it back to you, which is annoying. Crescendo of War... Howling Mine is fine. You can hand that away. Crescendo of War is a good way to speed games up. Like, all of a sudden, people's little mana dorks are attacking for 8 mana or 8 points of damage and stuff like that. I liked the card in the deck. I don't know if everybody will. The deck really just needs more stuff to hand out and give away that's not harmful. And even if you don't want to play with Steel Golem type stuff, you can include like Horn of Greed or something like that. Or maybe even like Mana Flare, or you know, stuff that like helps everybody, and it doesn't matter who owns it. But there's just not enough stuff to give away with this deck. So anyhow, let's look at this last pile. This is like your random stuff, your counter spells and other protection. Champion's Helm, I was fine. Greaves fine. Flusterstorm, I'll be honest, most of the time Flusterstorm was essentially a Force Spike. I don't even know if I own a Force Spike. In that, yes, you could blow out, there we go. You could blow out somebody who like taps out for Genesis Wave or something like that. But most of the time, people are just playing their little things, and Flusterstorm is going to make them pay 1 or 2 extra mana, and it's not going to matter. I'm not a huge fan of Flusterstorm in this deck. Whirlpool Whelm is another Clash card. You know, bounce, whatever. Repulse, another bounce, fine. Murmurs from Beyond. Yeah, that's fine. You know, draw 2, whatever. Spell Crumple, good. Scattering Stroke, meh, it was fine. You know, whatever. So I got rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I got rid of 13 cards. You add 5 lands, that means that you can like fit in 8 new cards that'll help you out. Again, I would probably put in like some sort of beater or something that can like help end games, because there's just not many game-ending plays in this deck. The only time that this deck is competitive is if you get a turn 2 Howling Mine. Honestly, because most of the time it's not competitive. You sit back, your mana's screwed, there's nothing you can do for a while, and then by the time you finally start catching up, the green deck has a ton of mana, and you're just way behind, and you're down to like 28 life, and it doesn't do much. God, this deck was so frustrating for me. Hopefully I'll get some replays up for you guys, and you can see what I'm talking about. But, you know, geez, what else would I include? Like, I don't know, anything big and mean and, you know, that has abilities. Like, you could put an Angel or 2 or something like that in here. You could put Font of Mythos and Horn of Greed so you can give stuff away. I mean, it's supposed to... there's a lot of defense in this deck, and that's fine. But there's got to be a way to turn all this defensive stuff into ways to win. And unfortunately, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But, like, you know, what's some big stuff that you can, like, you can put in dragons or something. You can put in a sword or 2. The deck is just, oh man, I hated it. I hated it so much. Sorry, guys. All right, let's get on to the replays. Thanks.